Welcome back everybody, it's DestinysJesus here. I know you guys have been enjoying this 3-level series a lot, so I wanted to get a new video out before the Solo Cash Cup and Dreamhack this weekend. I'm looking at a beginner player who failed to make round 2 of the Mongol Cup, a semi-pro who got about top 200, and Rezon who won the whole thing in dominant fashion. He had 5 wins, and we've been breaking down a full game from each of these players, going over their early, mid-game, and a load of different end-game strats that they're using, all nice and structured for you guys. I'll leave some timestamps up on screen, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Coming into our semi-pro player, Spencer, you're going to notice that he never actually fights off spawn. In all of his 10 games, he only ever got a couple kills off spawn, which is going to limit how many points he gets overall in the tourney, as well as limit his loot going into like mid-game for W King, as well as later game in terms of what movement and also what power weapons he has, right? For our beginner player, I'd say the easiest way for him to improve drastically is just to make endgame more consistently, right? You see how many games he's just dying off spawn very quickly, which is probably just a landing spot issue with his players around him with better loot that can kill him quick. Or he's dying very early in the mid game, right? These games are very short here and here, which means there's probably a loot imbalance where somebody can just push him quite quickly off spawn and then win a mid game fight. Obviously that can be fixed with just playing more arena and improving your fighting skills, but it still can be down to a landing spot. Rezon's early game was really interesting. He contested kind of lesser known POI Holly Hedges that's not often that busy, and he basically always dipped out of fights. Very rarely would he actually take the fight in Holly Hedges. Normally he just choose to disengage and then take a fight somewhere else, and he actually did this in a fashion where he'd always take a fight against a weaker player, as we'll see next. Every single one of Rezon's games, he came south consistently and took a fight down at these South Islands. This works really nicely because instead of fighting a more confident player at his main POI, he ends up fighting somebody doing a shambles loot route and always gets an unexpected beam. Coming into mid-game, I think a big mistake that semi-pro players or just regular players in general make is they don't read zone pools enough to predetermine like later zones, right? So in this game, zone's pulling far north, and Spencer decides to put himself in quite a congested area towards authority. This does allow him to refarm, but it's going to have a harder job of rotating out later on in the game, and he's also just in more congestion to begin with. Zone's pulling up north, right? You can basically be like an educated guess that it's going to pull somewhere up north in this region, somewhere again, just like that, yeah. And now you see how many players are in this region here that he has to rotate through with. He's also getting up on this live side of zone, right? What I would say on his first zone is he needs to rotate earlier, go wide, and try getting up north somewhere as early as possible. Because of that first zone rotate earlier, we didn't get deep enough, right? Now you can see that he's on this live side. This rotate here is going to be quite difficult. A lot of players surrounding him. Ends up having to use quite a bit of mats on this rotate forward. Again, goes through a lot of mats here. And then also now he's on this live side, right? There's a lot of congestion in this area, which can work in your favor. Let's say there's somebody with a pad, but it can just also make your rotates a lot more expensive and get you punished more easily. Another small mistake is that he's in brick here. At this point, you should definitely be in metal, right? Just to prevent anybody box diving you or any kind of like explodes. A small issue in our beginner mid game is that he actually tries to take a fight here without instigating with any damage, right? I say if you don't get a beam to initiate a fight and you don't really have an advantage going into the fight, you probably shouldn't key it most of the time, especially versus good players. It's quite hard to just key them and finish the fight quickly, and they'll just expand and make a lot of space that waste their mats. He ends up in quite a bad spot. He's edge third zone going to fourth, and he's actually going to get held by people up here in a minute. Our beginner here actually gets very lucky with first moving pull. However, he doesn't capitalize on this luck at all. In Fortnite, it's all about capitalizing on whatever comes your favor, and he should be going for a hold kill here and somebody maybe foot rotating on the backside towards zone, or maybe using a pepper, right? Instead, he just sits in his box, scouts backwards for some reason, and he doesn't scout forwards at all. You always want to know what's happening in front of you so you can make an informed decision about your rotate, right? He starts doing a swing rotate, this is fine, but he doesn't realise that it's going straight up authority walls. As he comes up here, he finally gets up, quite sketchy running along all these old builds. And now, as he gets in, he has no time to get an impact kill, right? That's the biggest thing for a lot of players, is they just can't find an impact kill, and it's just because he's not prioritising getting to the front as quick as possible, and then looking back for a hold. This lack of awareness in terms of getting to front side and holding it to look back and get an impact kill is exactly what gets our beginner killed here, right? As he comes forward, you can see how completely at the backside he is. He's trying to take an aim fight here and take a fight on the backside of Storm, instead of prioritising his rotation with his mats to get forward, right? As a rule of thumb, in any kind of situation like this, there's a lot of players ahead of you on low ground. Always just go upper layer. This is true for the whole time throughout endgame. Going upper layer is going to make it less congested and basically make it free for you to have a nice cheap rotate. Instead here, he tries to look for an angel on the backside of the zone, loses it to this guy, and there's so many people here with edit control that you can't really do much in that situation. Now, coming into first movement, we're going to see what our semi-pro does to actually rotate this zone. He has a launch pad as well as a pepper that he's going to use. Really nice thing here he does is he actually expands towards zone, gives himself a little bit of better sight lines, and allows his vision to be a little bit more clear on where he wants to go, right? He pops the pepper and then grabs the rest of the big pots. And now, as he places his pad, this is a small mistake that I noticed, right? Is he could wait about maybe 10 seconds for zone to actually hit him or come near him and then use the pad, right? And this would also save him the sketchiness here when he lands. He lands in a really congested spot on front side. Or somebody possibly landing in his box, right? We're going to see here, as soon as he lands, that play could have been potentially in his box in a 50-50 situation, right? And you always want to avoid that. That's why I say go as late as possible with the pad, and that's where the pre-builds are really useful. This is a big mistake that I see hundreds of players making. Is whenever you're at the end of zone, people don't waste their mats and expand forward, and instead they just sit in a single box, they don't have enough room, and this means that later on, when zone actually fully closes, they have to rush their decision in terms of what rotate they're going to do. They don't have space to use a crash pad or a pepper rotate, or maybe a launch pad for second moving, right? You need to make sure you have space towards the dead side. So zone was pulling from up north here, right? It pulled south. He needs to make room towards the south, expand that way, and that will give him a really nice setup for a rotate later on. As you see here, he gets in this cone, he's just in a single box on edge zone. Now, when he has to make a decision in terms of a launch pad, which is what he's trying to use, right? He has to rush it, he can't find a spot to launch, ends up bouncing his head and scuffing his rotate. And this could have resulted in him getting killed very easily. Another huge mistake that our semi-pro player does is he didn't actually look for a refresh sooner. I guarantee you guys get the situation up on a lot in game where you're not able to find any refresh or impact kills at all. And then as soon as you actually get a kill, you die straight after and you don't get enough placement, right? And it's always kind of annoying because you could have got more placement if you were just able to play your mats and get that refresh earlier. First big thing that he's doing is he needs to go down a level earlier, right? He needs to go down when he has mats so he can have edit control, have walls on people, have cones and floors above or below people, right, that you can edit them into. He needs to go down earlier when he has mats rather than waiting till he's got no mats and then trying to make a decision. Also, trying to focus people on your high mid-ground layers. They're always going to have more HP and be less shambles, right? So you want to get a consistent kill. My biggest tip is to go low ground when you have mats and you'll find somebody shambles, right? So here you can see Spencer's trying to find somebody to get a kill on. He can't really locate anybody. Everybody on these higher levels is decent health. Now finally he comes down low ground and runs into this guy. And he wins his angel, right? Hits all the shots. But now he's in a really scuffed situation. He has no control here. Wasn't a box fight really, he just got in the guy's box, right? And then as he comes out, everybody's already ahead of him. They've chapped off all these angles, they've opened everything up, and there's not much he can do here. There's a bunch of people looking at him and he just dies straight away. You need to go low ground sooner to find that impact kill, and it's so important at being able to find an impact kill, because that's how you take your games from like top 20, top 15, into consistent top 5s, and then top 3 bonus points for Dreamhack. He spends his whole time on 5th zone just trying to find a refresh. Also, he scuffed himself a little bit earlier with his mats. Okay, now zone goes max. That's interesting actually, right? As soon as zone doubles far, and it's kind of like he's kind of towards dead side, he actually builds up and then sets himself up in a good spot, either to recycle or something. He's also hugging an edge here. He's hugging right edge, right? It's not really like middle of zone. Maybe it is. You see how he's like basically at the ultimate front side, but right edge, right? If he was like completely edge, he'd be back here somewhere, but he'd rather be front side in this situation, especially because he's outside. It's a whole kill here. Okay, so as soon as zone doubles far, you're gonna know where there's nobody up top like north, because zone pulled from south, right? As soon as zone doubles far, he's one off low. He just goes straight low ground and he doesn't even build. He just sprints it, right? And look how much space he makes. And now he chooses a good layer. Heads over to left side edge. He swaps edges there. It's a little bit sketchy, but it's normally pretty free, right? Because all these people back here are focused on themselves, like trying to get in, right? That's really nice play. A lot of people don't like try using low ground rotates. Kill. I see that. He just moves a little bit and he gets all these kills on backside. Now he tanks. Okay. How many fish does he have? That's he tanks to get that refresh there, and he basically gets everything back here as well. It's RPG. He's got one more fish he's getting. That was very, very close. I was going to say, going for that RPG was like a very sketchy play, not just the mats. Okay, now he starts checking height. As soon as he gets in, even though he's low, he doesn't bother like looking for a refresh again. He's got everything he needs to win this game, right? And this is, what's it called? Win condition, right? As soon as you have a win condition, whatever it may be, like, let's say he had flops, you could have maybe gone for a flop pay, but you had to prioritize getting in, right? As soon as you have a win condition, you have to start looking and trying to execute it, right? So as soon as he gets this RPG, he's instant looking at height, gets the character lotions, shits on this too real quick, that's nice. And then he's on height, and he basically just has a free win from here, right? Heart RPG. Not really that hard. But like, I feel like a lot of players, if they get in, they don't just immediately start looking for a win condition, like after they get that refresh, right? If you didn't get those mats and didn't get the RPG, you probably wouldn't be able to win this game, right? But you've got to make a play like that to actually close it out. Shockwave not in game? I haven't heard it yet. And that's the thing, like, people complain about Shockwave a lot, and it's very annoying in solos, right? But you can normally just hear it and tell. Let's go pink. I don't think here then. I think he can do to win. That was a good game. That was a really good game. Just as soon as you get the RPG, he has to look for height, as well as getting the refresh. That was nice. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like if you did so, and also subscribe if you're new. I'll leave a link in the description to the full Rezon review that we did on stream. It's first link in the description to make sure to go check that out if you're interested. He won 5 games out of 8, which is absolutely insane.